Welcome to the Feria TechCast. We'll bring you all things science, engineering, technology, and innovation. Today we are joined by Sonia Couto, a two-time tech founder, managing director, and creator of two global SaaS companies who specializes in turning chaos into clarity and struggling startups into scalable success. With over 20 years in the tech industry, Sonia has built and revitalized global companies, bootstrapped SaaS products, and led teams in fiercely competitive environments. Her journey spans the highs of growth and the depths of near failure, including navigating breast cancer while running a company and rebuilding her personal life. Now, as a hands-on startup mentor and keynote speaker, she brings raw lessons on resilience, leadership, and turning ideas into lasting businesses. So, Sonia, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, so we'll dive in. So, firstly, you've built companies in different fields from food tech to field operations. What's the one thing that stays the same when building any tech product?
One thing that stays the same. Oh my gosh, tech is always changing, so it's hard to say that. I think one thing that stays the same is the idea and the processes into making that idea a product and then launching it. Whether you built it in a specific technology or not, it's the process to how you're going to build it, what technology you decide to build it in, when you're going to launch it, what are the problems that you're going to solve within that product. So all of those processes still stay the same generally in anything that you're building.
Great. So, tell us, what's the story behind starting Menusano? What problem were you trying to solve?
Yeah, Menusano. One day, me and my team, we worked at a software development company, and we were working late, and we ordered food out. And when we ordered the food, someone sort of asked the question, isn't it funny that when you go to a grocery store and you buy a product, there's a label in the back that tells you the carbohydrates, the fat, the sodium of that product. But when you go to a restaurant and you order food, you don't get that information. And we thought, well, why not? And is there something we can do about it? So we sort of started playing around with the idea, and that's how we started the founding team of that product. And we just did it out of our own need. We wanted to be able to go out and eat, but have more information about the food that we were eating while we were out, or takeout and things like that. At the time in North America, there was no government had not put any legislation in place to have that information be legal or to be mandatory. So we were really at the start of something that would become a lot bigger after, but it was really just based on a personal need and wanting access to that information as a consumer.
Interesting. So, what was the biggest technical challenge in building a nutrition analysis software?
Oh my gosh, there were so many. I don't even know where to start. Um, I think one of the biggest challenges was understanding the different compliance in different countries. So every country, every state that we were going to be offering our product in had different compliance for the nutrition, rounding rules, for cooking methods. It was very math based. So there's different calculations for each country, and each country has different compliance on the different types of labels that they offer. So it was really understanding all of the complexity around compliance, rounding rules, legislation, in order to be able to serve different countries and supply compliant nutrition labels. So things that our customers felt we had done the work, and they were getting something that they could use, and they were not going to not be compliant. So I think it was really the compliance part, really understanding it, and making sure that our product was really following the compliance for the countries that we are serving.
That's great. So, tell us, what's a piece of advice that you would have for a first-time founder who's terrified of failing?
My advice is ideas are great, but everybody has them. It's all about the execution. So don't get stuck on building your idea. Get stuck on how you're going to execute it. Get stuck on how you're going to build a business plan and plan out how you're going to launch that product. And I say that because a lot of the founders that I work with, they're passionate about their ideas and they can build out a tech idea for like years and years and years. And after they're done building it, they're like, oh well, I can build one more thing, or oh no, I'm just going to build this one more thing and then I'm going to launch. And then 5, 6, 10 years goes by and they're still building. At this point, it's a hobby, it's not a business. If you want to build a real business, you have to have an execution plan, because ideas are just ideas.
Right. So tell us, how did going through breast cancer while running a company change the way you lead your teams and make decisions?
Yeah, it completely changed the way I lead and make decisions. When you're a founder, your company is your baby, and I'm sure I speak for a lot of people, but for myself, I just felt like I had to make all the decisions. Everything had to go through me, and then I got diagnosed with breast cancer while we were relaunching the Menusano product, and I realized that I was going to have to take time for surgeries, time for recovery, and I wasn't going to be around to make all the decisions that I wanted to make. So I really had to change just my leadership style in um, promoting people to step up. And they did, and allow people to be able to make the decisions that they needed to make without having me oversee everything, and just give people the freedom to lead and take initiative. And so that really allowed me on a personal level to be able to step back and not be stressed out about everything at work, and be able to worry about my health specifically, which is something I needed to do at the time. But it really just, and I think still today, I find myself going back to that mentality of, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. I have to keep reminding myself that that wasn't healthy for me, that going through this experience and changing the way I lead was better. So now I'm a little bit more careful around when I make decisions, that I'm allowing my team to make decisions, be part of the decision making process, that they feel like they have room to grow and make those decisions and do things that if I'm not around, it's okay to do. So I think that it just made me a better leader, but it also eliminated the control freak within me.
Interesting. So, you won awards for being an influential leader in male-dominated spaces. So, what's one practical tactic for leading with confidence without burning out?
Without burning out. Um, I think leading with confidence is just knowing that you understand what you're talking about. I know that particularly in tech, because there's so many moving parts to building a tech company. A lot of people get stuck on, well, I'm not a technical person, and they feel kind of dumb. I think you have to just kind of overcome that part, and as a founder be like, maybe I'm not the person who's technically building this product, but I'm the person with the idea. This is my idea. I'm bringing it to fruition. So it's just overcoming those fears of, maybe I'm not so good at this, maybe I'm not so good at that, and finding ways to get involved in the things that you're not good at least understand them so you can feel more confident. One of the things that I did with the company that I run is I made sure that I got involved in every single role at some point in my career, so that by the time I got to building these startups, I sort of knew the process for every role, what a business analyst does, what a project manager does, what it's like to do QA, what it's like to build requirements and test and do regression testing. So now, because I've sort of put myself through all of those roles, I feel more confident when I speak. Yes, I'm not a developer. No, I'm not a business analyst. No, I'm not a QA. But because I understand those roles and what they do and what their purpose is, when I walk to a room and we're having a specific conversation about something that might have to do with that role, I know what I'm talking about it because I took the time to understand it. And I think that's what's really important in having confidence and not burning out, is just know the roles, understand what people are doing, understand why you're hiring people and what they're going to be doing in those roles, so that you can sort of step back and not feel so stressed out on having to control everything.
Oh, wonderful. So, tell us, what's the most common mistake that you see tech founders make when they are trying to scale?
Um, oh my gosh, there's so many. Let me think of one. When they're trying to scale, I think a lot of founders, when they're trying to scale, they go after venture capital investment versus trying to bootstrap. And I feel like bootstrapping has sort of become like a lost thing in tech, particularly. I think that when you're scaling, that is the best time to bootstrap your company. And bootstrapping, I mean, there's a couple different ways you can go about it, but if you can find yourself a client that is interested or loves what you're building and they're willing to come on early and pay a little less, but they're going to pay to go through that process of building with you, not only do you get the money that you need to build, but you also don't have to give your whole company away. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of founders do early on. They bring on venture capitalists. They are no longer their own bosses because they're reporting to a board. So they're restricted in what they can do, and they give away their companies too early on.
Great. So, what does a typical day look like for you as a managing director overseeing multiple companies?
What does a typical day look like for me? Well, I wake up a little later. I'm not one of those people that wakes up at 5 or 6 a.m. I believe in sleep. So I always try to get 8 to 7 hours of sleep every night. And then I wake up and the first thing that I do is I cuddle with my cat because that's just very relaxing for me. And
Yeah.
I take a little time to just hang out with my cat. And then I check my schedule. I see what my day is going to look like. And then I look at the weather and I decide whether I'm going to walk to the office or if I'm going to drive. If I'm going to walk, I give myself enough time to just enjoy the day. And then by the time I get to the office, my mornings, I always tell my staff, or I try never to book meetings in the morning. I like to come in and just have the mornings be my most productive times of the day. So I like to just get in, check all my emails, schedule my day, do all the work that I need to do. And then after lunch, that's when I have most of my meetings. If I have meetings in the morning, I feel like it sort of disrupts my workflow. So I do all my work in the morning. Afternoons, I have meetings if I want, or if I need to, or if I need to step away for meetings and things like that. And then I usually end my day a little bit later than I think most would. I love it when my staff all leave at 5 and then there's nobody here and it's nice and quiet. That's sort of a time where I look at my day and I'm like, okay, what is I live by my schedule. I don't do anything without my schedule, and I've taken my schedule to a whole new level where I've actually used OpenAI and Lovable to build my own custom scheduling system, because every scheduling system that exists out there wasn't good enough for me. That's how much I live by my schedules. So at 5 o'clock, when everybody leaves, I look at my schedule and I look at everything I've completed on my task list for the day, what I was able to achieve that day, and what was one or two things that I really wanted to get done, but I got distracted. Someone walked into my office, I got stuck in a meeting that I would want to take an hour or two to finish now before I actually finish my day. So I'll stay at the office by myself for an hour, 2 or 3. I'll make sure I get one or two of those tasks done. And then by the time I close my computer and I walk home or drive home, I'm done for the day. I don't check any more emails. I don't do any more work unless something comes up that completely needs my attention. I always have my laptop with me, but I go home and I make sure when I get home that I make myself dinner. I try not to eat out too much, unless it's like on weekends or something, but I go home, I make my dinner, I sit down, and I just enjoy the rest of the evening with peace and quiet, and I read a book or I'll watch a show, and it's just a very relaxing evening. But my days are very productive because I live by this list of things that I got to do every week. Every Sunday I spend about an hour getting ready for my week. Sundays are my days to like meal prep and clean my house. I can't work during the week with like a messy house. And I go grocery shopping and I prep all of my food so that during the week, all I need to do is grab it and cook it. It's already marinated. Salad's already set up. I just have to put the dressing in. So on Sundays, I take a lot of time to make sure that I do everything that I need to do so that my weeks can be very, uh, I can just do what I need to focus on and not have to worry about having to go to the grocery store and having to prep meals and things like that. So on the personal side, I make my life very easy so that I can be productive as much as possible. I know, sorry, I ranted a little bit on that.
That was great. So, you talked about creating your own scheduling to using OpenAI and Lovable. So, I'd like to know what were the flaws that you saw in mainstream scheduling tools that made you consider building yours, and what were the new features you added to yours that sets it apart from the others that are publicly available to use? I like to hear things from a tech founder's perspective.
Well, okay, it started out as a simple thing, but now I went down a very dark rabbit hole and it's become way bigger. So I wanted a task list for myself that I could keep myself organized, meaning I want to be able to take an email and create a task for it, which there's tools that exist, but I want to be able to take an email and create a task, but I also want to be able to add in my own tasks. But I have certain tasks that have like a million tasks within one task. And I didn't want to create an individual task for each one of those. I wanted to be able to create the parent task and then have subtasks within it that actually create workflows for me. So I'll give you an example. When I have to meet with my board, the task is meet with the board, but within that task, I have a million different tasks that I have to do. I have financials that I have to prepare. I have product reports that I have to prepare. I have roadmaps. I have all these things that I got to do within one. And I do them in a workflow, right? So I wanted to be able to create all these subtasks within the main task, but I also wanted those subtasks to be workflows for me. So I got to do this one first, and then I can do the next one and the next one and the next one. But I also want to be able to maybe assign something to someone on my team. And I want to be able to prioritize that task. So I want to assign it to John, for example, and I want John to complete it by this date. But I also want to see the progress of John on this task. Is he 25% done? What's his progress? And also, if he can't get it done by the date that I gave it to him, when can he get it done? But then there was a lot of task tools out there that they would allow me to see like the tasks that I've assigned to other people, individually almost. But what I did that I think was different from everything that I was able to find out there was I created what is called a CEO dashboard. So on my task tool that I created, not only do I have the ability to create all these tasks for myself, be able to prioritize them, create workflows, I have a calendar now that I've created and emails. I also have a dashboard where I can see all of my staff's tasks and where they are and have they completed them? Are there tasks that are overdue? And I just really like the workflow. It works for me. I'm a visual person. I want to be able to log in and see everything at a glance. I want to see what it is I need to do today, what's priorities, what's not, but also what are the priorities for my team and what are they working on and what haven't they been working on, what's overdue, because like I have a lot of people on my team, and I would find myself like in a meeting, like I have my weekly meetings with my team, and we would walk away from those meetings with actions and tasks that needed to get done. But my team wasn't taking detailed notes, and then they weren't going off and creating these action lists and these tasks. And then the next week we would meet and I'd be like, did you get this done? And they're like, oh, I forgot to write that down. I don't have it in my task list. And I just wanted a better way to be able to capture these tasks. So whenever I have meetings with my team, I record everything, and then we have transcripts, and I take those transcripts and I put them into my AI tool and automatically creates the tasks, and then I just assign those tasks. So it makes the job a lot easier. Now my team doesn't have any excuse for forgetting to write that task down, because now we don't have to worry about meeting notes, but everything is captured in this tool, and I not manage, but I can monitor where everybody's at a little bit better and see when I can expect things to get done versus walking around like a chicken with my head cut off and chasing people. Have you done this? Have you done that? It just makes my life a lot easier. And listen, there's probably tools out there that work, but the ones that I tried, they were really complicated. They were really expensive. It would take me like a month training to figure out how to use it, and just building something using OpenAI was super easy. I just prompted to do what I needed to do. It created a very simple UI, something that I can use. It has everything that I need. And now I'm actually using it with my team and assigning them stuff, and they actually really like it. And it just works. But it works for me because I designed it the way I needed it to be.
Wow, that's amazing. So, going back a bit, tell us what's something surprising that you learned about food and health from building
Menusano.
Menusano. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I learned a lot. I learned, prior to doing Menusano, I always knew, my family had a history of diabetes. I knew what diabetes was. I knew that there was type 1 and type 2, but I actually never realized, as on the nutrition side, if you have diabetes, what are the things that you should be looking at? I always thought, oh, if you have diabetes, it's all about sugar, right? And then I discovered through this process that it's not about sugar. It's also not about calories. People who actually struggle with diabetes, what they're looking at is carbohydrates. So when they're looking at a nutrition label, they're not worried about the intake of calories. They're looking at what are the quantities of carbohydrates that is in that label that they really need to be looking at. And I think I just understood nutrition differently. I am that person who, when I go to the grocery store, I will be reading a nutrition label and I understand what it means. I feel like nutrition labels were invented by a scientist, and majority of common population will look at a nutrition label and they'll look at the total calories, but they don't actually understand what everything else means, grams and all that stuff. What does it mean to a consumer to look at a label? So that was one of the things that I really got out of it, is that I think I'm probably one of the only people that can go to a grocery store, look at a label, and understand and know exactly what all of that means and how it makes up the total calories. Just because you're eating something that has 600 calories versus 800 calories doesn't actually mean that it's healthier. You have to actually look at the breakdown of that label to identify, if you're eating something that has 600 calories, but it has like, 50% sodium or, you know, 20, 50 grams of sugar, but it still has 600 calories, that's not a healthy nutrition. That's not whatever it is that you're going to eat is not healthy. So I think it's made me really understand labeling, what goes into it, how it all ends up making up your calories, and just a breakdown of a nutrition label.
Wonderful. So, for the women in tech listening, what's the best way to support each other, women, and build each other up? What's the best way to support other women?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's really about like if you're going to say you're going to support other women. I think women in male dominated spaces, which are a lot, they don't support each other because they're kind of competing against each other because the women's space is so small. So I think it's really about just if you're a woman in leadership, create space for other women to be able to first work in those companies, second, get promoted and be able to grow within those companies. If you're a woman in leadership, create the space for other women to get to where you are. And I think that's really where it starts. When we say support other women, yeah, women who are not in a leadership position can support other women for sure. But I think it really starts at women that are in leadership positions that can create space for other women to grow within companies.
Great. So, what does resilience actually look like on a really tough day in the startup world?
What does resilience look like? I mean, I can't speak for everybody. I guess I can just speak for myself. Resilience to me, um, it just means that I was able to make it to the day with my sanity. And in order to have that resilience and keep my sanity, I have to follow my own workflow and processes that I've built to keep my sanity. So getting those 8 hours of sleep, getting rest. I can do anything and I can be super resilient throughout my day, throughout my week if I've gotten enough sleep. If I don't drink alcohol, which I try not to on average, but you know, if I've had like a night out where I have like a glass of wine, it throws me off completely. So just building habits, healthy habits on my in my everyday so that it can keep my mind healthy and my body healthy, and that alone is resilience for me. That allows me to get through anything that I really need to. It's just keeping my body and my mind healthy.
That's a wonderful, wonderful. So tell us, if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice before starting our first company, yeah? So what would it be?
Don't be afraid to do things alone. I've always had this fear of like taking something on by myself and failing or not having the experience or the skills to be able to do something. So I found myself through, you know, when I was younger, just building companies, and I've built companies when I was younger, but I've never really done something like alone. I would always bring someone on with me, just, and it wasn't because I needed that person. I told myself that I needed someone else along. And that's, you know, bringing someone else along or having someone join your founding team. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me personally, I wish I had told myself, don't be afraid to do things alone, because now at an older age, I'm 46, I'm starting to do that and I'm able to achieve a lot more. So I wish I had told myself that when I was younger.
Wonderful. So tell us, what does innovation mean to you in the world of tech and startups?
I think innovation is really taking a taking a traditional way of doing something and innovating it with technology. So, you know, we have so many things that we do in our day-to-day lives that we've been doing the same way over and over again for many years. And now technology is coming along and saying, "Hey, we can do that with technology." I'll give you an example. Nutrition labeling. The traditional way to do nutrition labeling was to send food to a lab to get physically analyzed. And in that analysis process, then you're able to get your labels. But now we have technology that can take that process and do it all while using technology, and it reduces the time of that process by, you know, significant amount. But it also allows companies to be able to do a lot more work and be more efficient because they're using the technology that's now been invented to change that manual process ways of doing things. So I think that's innovation, taking something a traditional industry, and innovating it so that the people using the technology get more benefits, can get products out faster. Healthcare is an industry that when we talk about innovation, like, oh my gosh, we can detect disease earlier. We can, people who do have diseases, like for example, I'm a breast cancer survivor. There is a high, if you get diagnosed early, you're most likely going to go through treatment and come out on the other side okay, versus years and years ago, where if you got diagnosed with cancer, it was a life sentence. So technology has come a long way, even in healthcare, and I think that's what innovation means to me.
Wonderful. So, Sonia, I'll end with a totally unrelated question. So,
Okay.
answer this: cats or dogs, and give your reasons.
Okay, definitely cats for me. I'm a cat person, and the reason is dogs are too needy for me.
Oh,
I
wow.
love, yeah, I love my cat because when he needs me, he comes around, but when he doesn't need me, he's like, leave me alone. Uh, and,
Yeah.
and, and sometimes I find myself chasing him, being like, come on, cuddle with me. And he's like, not right now, mom. Dogs are very like, all the time. You come home and they're all over you. Then you got to take them out, and they always want food and they want to lay down. I like my cat because he can be a bit of a jerk.
Oh, wow.
you know and he gives me space, and he's not like all over me, and that's why I like cats better. They're a lot more independent, and they're not needy.
Oh, wow. So I guess you like your pets to be less clingy.
Yes, yes.
Interesting. So, to wrap up, tell us where can listeners contact you or learn more about your work or connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, I have websites for all of my companies, but if you go to soniakudo.com, there is links there to every single site. You can email me everything that you need to know about me, my LinkedIn profile, you can get through soniakudo.com.
Great. So, Sonia, it's been a wonderful conversation with you, and I'm really excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.